Hello, welcome back to another episode. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty tired of stripping lenses and cleaning glass and trying to put it all back together again. So today we're going to take a break and we're going to look at one of my favourite cameras and one I've used for many years. And this is the Olympus OM system. First sort of touted at Photokina in 1972 as the M1. But obviously when the Leica guys saw this, they went crazy and said, you can't call it an M1, we've got the M sort of in our product name. Although they didn't seem to have any problem with Pax and Powell calling their cameras M cameras, but still. So this became the OM1. They just put the Olympus in front of it. The M stands for the designer. I can't remember his name, Japanese guy obviously. But this is a very original camera. Was actually sold 73 was really when it appeared on the market, and this is one of the very first ones because it doesn't have the MD designation on it. So this was made in the very first year of OM1 production. As you can see on the top plate, it's an OM1. You will find cameras that are still made or still showing the M1 logo. Don't be fooled into thinking that they're hugely collectible. There was over 50,000 of them made. Don't pay a silly amount of money thinking you're getting something that's extremely rare, because they're not. They do show up every now and again, and an M1 Olympus is not really worth that much more than a standard Olympus. These were classed as beginners cameras because they are all manual, 35mm SLR, but the prices of these have just gone up and up and up now, and they're I think probably a bit too expensive for most beginners. They're quite an expensive camera now. Same with the lenses, they're quite sought after, and I wouldn't really recommend it as a beginner's camera, although it is fully manual. It will work without batteries. It will work in very cold weather. 1979 saw the introduction of the 1N, and there's not really that much of a difference between them. This is a 1N. As you can see, by this time they were all motor drive compatible. When they were first launched, they weren't. They had a solid base plate. This one's been modified. It now has the drive cup in the bottom of it. Because the serial numbers on the bottom, the ones that are modified got new serial numbers. This is a battery compartment. This is obviously off a chrome camera, and the contacts for the either an auto winder or a motor drive. Because make no mistake, these are professional cameras. They will take a winder, and they will take a proper full-on motor drive that will run at 5 frames a second, just as quick as the Canons and the Nikons of the era. But as you'll notice, it's quite a lot smaller than those cameras, and it's quite a lot lighter than, say, an F2 or a Canon F1. Extremely popular. Even today they're still extremely popular. I can understand why. I love the Olympus system. It's a system I changed to after Nikon. After F2s and Canon T90s, I moved to Olympus. They never really got into autofocus. These were still available right up until the year 2000. I think the last sell-off of Olympus OM gear was about 2004, and they never went autofocus. The OM system is always manual focus. Some of the cameras are more automated, and we'll look at those in other series, the OM2 and the OM4. The OM3 is a more modern version of the OM1. Same kind of internals, but just in a slightly different body. So on the front here, let's go through it. We have PC port. We've got X and focal plane for bulbs. A bit like the Nikon FTN or FT, this has the shutter speed dial around the throat of the lens, and obviously anything below a 60th is highlighted in blue because that is the sort of the flash sync speed. The aperture on Zuku lenses is always at the front. So this is your aperture setting. Whoop, that's your focus. This is your aperture setting here. This is your focus, and this one adjusts your shutter speed. Again, it's got a little helper on it just to help you go through there. The OM1 also had mirror lockup. If I remove the lens, there's always 2 buttons on Zuku's. One at the top one at the bottom. This one at the bottom is the depth of field preview. It will stop the iris down for you. And this top one is to release the lens, turn it counterclockwise and remove. It's a bayonet, as you can see, which is what professionals prefer, is a bayonet lens. But yeah, this camera has mirror lockup, so you can fit any lens, any OM system lens will fit on this camera. And the lenses range from, I don't know, a fraction of probably 7-8 millimeters right the way through to 1,000 millimeters. And it will take all of the lenses. Obviously you need a viewfinder if you're going to put the mirror up. And then here we have another toggle for the shutter speed. You can see red index mark. Very simple. Self timer. Just push that down, and again nice mechanical whirring, 100% mechanical. Mainly metal, I don't think there's any plastic in these. The bottom and the top are all metal chassis. There we go. And usually the film rewind is at the top here. When you want to rewind the film, you move it to there. It makes it very convenient if you've got a drive or a winder on the bottom. You haven't got to mess about down here looking for buttons to push. Obviously lug straps, don't like those because they always damage. This is what causes all this brassing. Always try and put some leather behind it or something to protect the camera body. Although brassing on a black body does look quite attractive. So on the top, obviously we got the film advance. Very nice and smooth. If it starts getting rough, then that camera's going to need some attention. Frame counter, self-resetting when you open the back door. If you see scratch marks where these two holes are, it means that somebody's been in the camera and not done a very good job. You just need to use rubber to get those off. The same with the self-timer. If you see scratch marks on that, it means that somebody's been in the camera and not done it properly. Threaded shutter release on the top. And yeah, it's threaded for a cable release. Sorry, I forgot to turn notifications off. ASA dial on the top, which is a bit unusual. There's the marker for it, and it's hard to see on this black body, but there's a little button that you push down there and you can set the ASA, and it goes from 16 right the way around to 25. So let me leave it on 400. Hot shoe on the top. On these cameras, the hot shoes are all removable, and there is different types of shoe. I think there's 1, 2, 3 and 4. 4 is for the N ones, and these do remove, so you can remove them. Dear, that needs a good clean under there, doesn't it? And this one isn't too bad, particularly the shoe 4s are known for cracking. You'll see crack up here. This will be a shoe 4 on this other one, which is the N version, and you will see on there it's got the crack. These shoes without the crack on their own are worth a small fortune, because most of these have cracked. It's where people have over tightened them when they've been putting them on the camera. If you can find a shoe 4 that hasn't been cracked and also has the original cover on it, that's definitely worth trying to find. But it tells you there shoe 4, that's the one that you use, shoe 4. The only thing it really does is it's got a little indicator in the viewfinder to tell you that the flash is charged if you use the dedicated Olympus flashes. So yeah, we'll leave that shoe off because as you can see, that needs some work doing, so that's another one to add to the list. This side battery metering on-off switch, very simple, you know, nice and easy way of doing it. Obviously rewind crank, hold out, rewind your film after you've turned the lever on the front there. The back, just a standard back. They do come off the backs because they did do a 250 back for these as well. On the bottom, motor drive coupling, battery compartment, tripod bush in the middle, and obviously the contacts for the drive and what have you. Dare I take the battery cover off and see what sort of state it's like in there. It does move. Okay, that's the motor drive coupling, so you can see there how it couples into the motor drive. People don't really use motor drives anymore. At the time they were really popular. auto winders, which are on at 2 frames a second, were really just used to advance the film. They're still quite useful, but even those are not that popular, so don't pay a lot of money for motor drives and winders. They're not popular anymore. They used to be really expensive, and they were expensive new, but takes a mercury battery, so you can use a wean cell in there. That needs cleaning as well. You could use a wean cell in there, or a 625A, and just allow for the difference, compare it to another meter and just allow for the difference, or use Sunny 16, an app on your phone or anything like that. And if we open up the back, what horrors will we find in here? Pretty standard layout now for one of these, pressure plate, and the foams are pretty mouldy. Multi-slotted take-up spool, sprocket drive, rubberized silk cloth shutter, standard Leica style shutter, and obviously this is where your film go. I'm not going to load film in it because this one obviously needs some work, but if I set the shutter speed to something quite low, and there you can see the shutter action. But yeah, beautiful cameras, absolutely beautiful. Obviously being mechanical, don't need a battery. Oh, that's great, isn't it? Even after all these years. So this one needs a bit of a clean up and a bit of an overhaul, and then that'll be as good as new. It's got the wrong lens on it. This is an Auto S lens. These weren't around at the time. But we'll cover lenses in a future video because that's a whole story in itself. And then we have a look at the 1N, which was 79. This was launched, as you can see, very, very similar. This one's wearing, oh, it's got a 1.4 on it. That's nice. Very similar. I don't know which you think is a better looking. I think the chrome ones look fine. But yeah, just very similar in layout. Obviously some internal modifications. Still has the mirror lockup, self-timer, rewind, lug straps. Flash is the same, shutter speed is the same. It tops out at 1,000th, which by today's standards isn't very quick, but at the time that was pretty standard. Again, takes the I think these take SR44s if I remember right. I think because they're 79 they take the newer style batteries. I could be wrong, don't quote me on that. You can get converters where you can put a 1.5 volt cell in and it will knock it down to 1.3. And like I say, most people probably use the phone app. Oh, it's got a wean cell in it. You can see we've got some corrosion in there. I don't think this is from the wean cell. I think this is from another battery previous. But yeah, this is running on a wean cell, so I'm assuming it's still 1.3 volts. And obviously all the ones after 74 with the MD designation on them, that just means motor drive. It means they've already got the cap and cover for the motor drive connection. But yeah, very, very similar. But yeah, nice looking cameras. Nice lens, 1.4. Focusing screens are interchangeable. There was a load of them. There's about, I think, 20 focusing screens. If you look in there, you can just see this. You need tweezers. You can just pop the focusing screen out. So very easy for cleaning, etc. These cameras are very, very prone to foam rot. In the usual places along the light seals, that's quite common, but also in the prism area you may find that the pentaprism, there's a big glass block inside of here, and quite often the foam that surrounds it deteriorates and it starts to eat into the glass and the mirror finish. So you will find them with issues with the pentaprism. And that's what it's relating to, is the foam deteriorating underneath. It is possible to take them off and clean the foam out. I've done that on a few of these, and I will make a video showing how to do it. But once the damage has been done to the prism, the only thing to do is replace it from a parts camera. So there we go. Introduction to the OM-1 and the OM-1N. High quality professional cameras. From the 70s, very well built, made in Japan. Sorry, my voice is going. I'm getting a bit of a cold, I think. And highly recommended. I used these for over 20 years, and they just keep on going, keep working. Quite lightweight. The lenses are quite small as well. Wouldn't say they're light, especially at 1.4. That's quite a heavy lens. I'm looking for fungus and crap in it now. This thing about fungus in lenses. But this lens doesn't look as though it needs too much, just a good clean. And yeah, there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you found this interesting. Very good camera. They are more expensive than some of the other ones that we look at, but they're highly recommended, and they're well worth the money if you can afford them. They're not cheap anymore. They're very collectible and sought after, because obviously they're not made anymore. And just look at it, you know, it is a beautiful camera. And it started the trend towards the smaller cameras. You saw Pentax respond with the ME and ME Super, and cameras started to get smaller. Whereas all the way through the 60s and the early 70s, cameras were just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The same problem as we see now with digital cameras. You know, mirrorless cameras are not smaller than DSLRs, for example. You know, cameras again are just getting bigger and bigger. And you'll probably see this happen again. History always repeats itself. The cameras will start to go small. Now, this was the one that sort of started it off in the 70s. For film SLRs anyway, to get smaller and lighter, but deliver just the same performance as a professional camera. These were professional cameras. Make no mistake about it, they were expensive when they were new. You know, they were not a consumer camera. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed. Questions, comments, queries, etc. down below. If I've missed anything, let me know. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.